Spring drive, Zaratsu polishing, exquisite dial, and definitely grands more than your typical Seiko. But this is not a Grand Seiko, it's a Credor, but it's within the price of a Grand Seiko. This is the Credor Kuon reference GCLX999. Here are the dimensions and specs. It has a case diameter of 39mm, a lug-to-lug of 46.2mm, a lug width of 22mm at the first link, a thickness of 10.8mm. Now, they don't really state the water resistance, but I'm guessing it's around the ballpark of 30 meters, and it has 72 hours of power reserve from the 7R31 caliber. I've owned 3 Grand Seiko timepieces in the past: the limited edition SBGH269 Momiji, the SBGA375 Midnight Blue, and the SBGH273 from the Seasons collection. And while they were fantastic watches, I didn't like how their bracelets just didn't match the level of execution on the watch heads, and they were rather bulky in comparison to their competition. Now, I'm not saying this watch is better than a Grand Seiko, as they're rather comparable, but there are a few aspects that make this Credor special and a standout against Grand Seiko's and Credor's own catalogue, and I'll explain further in the video my reasoning behind picking this up instead of a Grand Seiko. Looking at the Credor Kuon, the whole watch presents itself with a very cohesive composition, from case to bracelet and even the dial. It has a lot of aspects of a Grand Seiko we love, like the spring drive technology and excellent finishing, but feels and looks more refined thanks to its unique shape and flowing nature. In fact, Credor describes the watch thematically as representing the gentle flow of time, and I agree. The timepiece certainly has a gentle and flowing approach to it, lacking any facets or hard edges commonly found on Grand Seiko timepieces, with its sleek profile and curved architecture, which blends into the rounded edges of its bracelet seamlessly via an integrated system. The finishing here is incredible, with clean transitions from the Zaratsu polishing to the fine brushing, and it does more than just look pretty. It helps to accentuate the lines and form of the watch. The transitioning lines on the case match perfectly with the transitioning edge of the bracelet, highlighting a polished, rounded border for a softer look, and gives an illusion of lugs while further emphasizing the connected flow between the case and bracelet with continued brushing. Just like Grand Seiko, the case on the Kuon is no slouch. The corners of the mid-case rise up to hug the bezel at a point, then curve down on each side to create a very elegant look. The structure of the sides mirror that of the bezel to form a stepped border that accommodates an effortless integration of sloping crown guards, which highlight the profile of the watch and protect a signed crown. Head-on, the polished surface of the case matches beautifully with the polished bezel, and is done in such a way that makes it look like the two are a single piece, almost like there isn't a bezel at all. This case is a clear example of simple yet sophisticated, and pairs perfectly with the dial. Here we get a white dial, but it's no ordinary white dial. This dial is made of porcelain. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, if you've heard of Credor before, it might be because of the Credor HE2, a masterpiece of a watch with a hefty price tag of 7,535,000 yen at the time of this video. And guess what its dial is made of? Porcelain. This Credor Kuon also uses a porcelain dial, but it's priced at 1,375,000 yen, nearly 6 times cheaper. The warmth and sensation provided from porcelain is something special that completely contrasts the dynamic intricacies of textured dials. There's a serene feeling when looking at the watch, and the spring drive sweep just enhances the visual experience. The indices are blue, with thicker markings at 3, 6, and 9, and the Credor logo is in place of a 12 o'clock marker, and the blue pigment as a whole helps to show off the cool tone of porcelain. The hands are thin and tempered blue to match, and give the dial a clean, minimalistic and calming look, but the process to create this dial is anything but calm or serene. You see, porcelain requires firing a glassy glaze at high temperatures to achieve the perfect surface tension, and more often than not, these dials end up with imperfections or cracking in the process, so the whole ordeal becomes quite tedious and time-consuming. But get the balance of composition, heat, and timing right, and you end up with something incredible. The hard work truly pays off, and the choice to have minimal markings on the dial is a no-brainer and just works to showcase its beauty. On the flip side, the movement is proudly displayed, as it should, being magnificently finished with a curved, wave-like pattern, which I find to be reminiscent of Japanese Zen gardens. And just like these Zen gardens, there's a feeling of tranquility and harmony here. Where the Zen gardens capture the essence of nature, the Credor 7R31 captures the nature of time, depicting it in an endless flow, fitting for the smooth sweep of a spring-drive caliber. Even the power reserve feature follows this notion, illustrating the days left with shortening lengths of lines in a circle formation. Nothing here is overdone and keeps in line with the whole theme of the timepiece, and with the power reserve on the back, the viewing of the movement is an intentional part of the watch and one that's quite enjoyable. The 7R31 is a manual wind movement, so you will have to wind it occasionally to keep it running. Being a spring drive caliber, the accuracy is going to be amazing, with a deviation of 1 second a day or 15 seconds a month. And while Credor states it as exclusively for Credor, from what I can tell, it's essentially a decorated 9R31, which can be found in some manual wind Grand Seiko timepieces, so exclusively decorated sounds more appropriate. As I said earlier, the bracelet is integrated, and usually modern integrated timepieces lean towards the sportier side. However, the Credor Kuon's bracelet has an intricate and sleek layout, giving the watch a classy edge and dressy touch, which makes it versatile. The design of the bracelet is akin to some of Credor's older timepieces, like the Pacifique, and looks fantastic with its tapered profile, smaller intermediate links, and alternating brushed and polished finishing. It's the bracelet that really sealed the deal for me, as it's a unique part of the watch and offered something different, but there are some issues with it. If we look at the clasp, you will notice something familiar here. It's the same one used on many Grand Seiko models, and with that comes the same problems of a protruding lip and lack of micro adjustment. Not only that, the bracelet doesn't come with any half links to play with, so depending on your wrist size, you could be left in an awkward position with an in-between fit, either too tight or too loose. Luckily for me, I was able to get a great fit, and on my wrist, the watch is very comfortable thanks to its curved profile and rounded edges. The links themselves are thin and work well with the case to create a very sleek wearing experience, and the integrated bracelet just makes it wrap effortlessly around the wrist. Its weight of about 125 grams with all links is also nice during wear and works with the whole watch to give a sense of lightness. So why this Credor over a Grand Seiko? Being a Seiko fan, Credor has always been a goal of mine in watch collecting. They're Seiko's hidden gem, but the models I wanted were just way out of reach or extremely rare, so the thought of owning one felt rather distant. Credor's other releases throughout the years didn't really resonate with me either. They were too flamboyant and simply not my type. When the Kuon was announced, my interest was piqued. It boasted a classic Credor aesthetic with a modern twist and a clean dial similar to that of an HE2, and I assumed the price would follow suit with the HE, but I was wrong. It was within the budget of a Grand Seiko, but like many Credor offerings, they were only offered to the Japanese domestic market. However, I had plans of heading to Japan the following year. 6 months later, and I find myself in Japan and hunting for the watch. I went into multiple boutiques, including the flagship in Ginza, to inquire about the watch, but to no avail. It was sold out everywhere, and I was told they wouldn't be receiving more for a long time. My hopes were crushed, and Grand Seiko was the other option, which I was completely fine with, as I wanted a Japanese watch to commemorate my visit to Japan. I made my way to a Grand Seiko authorized dealer in Kobe with the intention of picking up the SBGW305 on the Beads of Rice bracelet, but I noticed they also carried Credor, so I inquired. At first, they didn't have it in stock, but after they checked their system, they told me there would be one in 5 days, so I returned 5 days later and purchased the watch. The Kuon was the better choice for me, and was my original option. While the SBG W305 looked great, there wasn't anything truly special about it, and I was mainly interested in the Beads of Rice bracelet, as I think that's one of Grand Seiko's best bracelet offerings. The Kuon was truly a Japanese watch, and it was so different, yet familiar at the same time. Side by side, I found it to be the better watch for me. It was more refined, more elegant, and I don't think it made sense to have both in the collection. To top it off, it was only made for the Japanese market, and I was in the right place at the right time. So, will I consider a Grand Seiko in the future? Absolutely, as they're one of my favorite brands, but I'm hoping for some more bracelet offerings and more models with their Beads of Rice bracelet. Thank you for checking out the video. Let me know what you think about the watch in the comments, and feel free to leave any questions. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more watch content. I'll see you in the next one.